Hey Scrap Boss, it's your girl Victoria Marie, and we're back with the Creative Reconnection series. Welcome to February. This month we are going to be focusing on using, or at least reconnecting with, our Scrappy stash. Now, if you haven't heard of this series, I posted a couple links down below where you can learn more, both on the Victoria Marie blog and here on the YouTube channel. But essentially, the Creative Reconnection series is all about reconnecting with scrapbooking. And so in the intro video, I tell you a little bit about why I wanted to do this series and sort of my personal journey with scrapbooking over the past year and how I felt a little disconnected. So for the rest of the year, we're going to be focusing on different themes every month. So January, we reconnected with our Scrappy style, and I still have some videos specific to that theme that I'm going to post in February. But in February, we're going to focus on using our Scrappy stash, being reconnected with our Scrappy stash. So I'm going to challenge you to go through your stuff, see what papers you haven't used, what embellishments you haven't touched in a while, maybe some of those font stickers that are kind of hanging out that maybe you look at but you don't quite use. Now, I'm not saying abandon your new stuff, because if you know me, I love new Scrappy supplies. But I also like using the stuff that's already in my stash, because it's like finding something new that you haven't seen in a very long time. So I hope you join me for this series. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe here to the Victoria Marie YouTube channel. When you do, click that bell indicator. That way you'll know each and every time I post a new video here to the channel. Also, follow me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, join in the Facebook group. All of those links are posted down in the description box below. So without further ado, let's kick off February with a layout where I use nothing but items from my stash. Enjoy. For this layout, I am scrapbooking this photo of my daughter. We had gone out to dinner probably a few weeks ago, maybe it's been a month or so ago. And I've noticed recently that she likes to take books everywhere we go. And you know, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Both my spouse and I are very much readers, and it's just a part of our family culture. And I'm so glad that we have taught her to enjoy books. She's really into the Dork Diary series, and that's the book that she was reading. She devours that series, and she absolutely loves it. And it just warms my heart that she is such a bookworm. She's a tiny little bookworm. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm using nothing but items from my stash. Of course, that's the theme for February for the Creative Reconnection series. So what I did was I went through my stash and I found anything that was remotely even related to books or reading or anything of that nature. So I have an LA Studio stamp that's all about reading. I also pulled some journaling cards from LA Studio that I actually had this product, maybe last year they sent me as I was a guest designer. I also pulled some scrap paper from my stash. I used a little bit of that mint green striped paper that I guess it's more of an ombre design. I also cut a piece of navy blue cardstock. Well, I guess it's close to navy blue. And I created this border using this punch here. It looks like a little notebook punch. And I've grabbed a bunch of other things from my stash and decided, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. So this is an 8.5 by 11 layout, and the first thing I started with was mounting my photo on some white cardstock to create a border. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and get my background set up. I'm going to take that strip of mint green pattern paper, and to that I'm going to add the strip of the blue pattern paper that I punched, or at least created a border punch using that little notebook punch. And I think that notebook punch is from EK Success, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the left-hand side of my layout, and I'm just using a piece of heavy white cardstock. Next up, I'm going to take some journaling cards. Now, these are from LA Studio, and I got this maybe last year, I believe. Yeah, it was last year. I was doing some guest design work for them, and this particular kit was all about reading, and I thought this would be perfect, and I had some stuff left over. So I'm going to use that as a layering piece, and then below this reading log card, I'm going to use that to journal. I also have some more elements from LA Studio, this wood veneer book set, which is beautiful. You can leave it just the way it is, or you can jazz it up a little bit with some paint, perhaps. Then I have this label, and that reads, "Couldn't put this book down," which is true. She loves the Dork Diary series, and usually when we get her new book or she checks out one of the books in the series, she will read it in one day. She just really, really loves it. Next up, I'm going to grab some of these stickers. And this is from, I believe, Simple Stories. It's a little bitty globe, and I thought that'd be perfect to put on the layout. One, because it's colorful, and two, I like globe elements. I'm going to go ahead, took the sticky off the back. I'm just going to make it a regular die cut. Added some foam adhesive from Stampin' Up. And I'm going to give that just a little bit of height and presence there on the layout. Taking off those backings, I'm going to get that positioned and layer that right over that little stack of books there. That's really adorable.
Next up, I'm looking at the options from these sticker sheets. I've had these for probably 3 or 4 years now. And I like these little sticker sheets because they add just a little bit more interest to a layout. Lots of options, lots of shapes. You can use them in planners, you can use them in your traveler's notebook, and of course you can use them on scrapbook layout. So I'm shopping around this sticker and it says love this. And I'm going to also stamp out a die cut that says love this. And I didn't notice that I would have 2 circles that said the same sentiment, but that's okay. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to grab some labels. I believe those labels are from Ellie Studio as well. It's a little sticker sheet, I believe. No. Those are from Freckle Fawn. So I added a label to the right-hand side under the card that says document. I like layering labels. I think it gives a layout a very interesting look. Next, I'm going to grab these, oh goodness, those are, I forget the name of them, burlap letters, good grief, from My Little Bicycle. I think that's what the name of the company was. And then these are from CN Crafts. These navy blue letter fonts I received in a scrapbooking kit many years ago, and they've just been hanging out in my stash, so I thought those would work. I'm going to spell out the title called Bookworm. I'm going to put that on the vertical on the left-hand side. Next up, grabbed my Nuvo adhesive, my favorite liquid adhesive of all time. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere down those burlap letters. I've had them in my stash so long, they've lost some of their sticky, so I'm going to have to add a little bit of sticky to that to make it stay. There we go, looking good. Now I decide I want some stamped elements. Now this is a really great way to get a lot of mileage out of your stamps. I'm going to do that here in a second. Next I'm cutting up a label from Ellie Studio. And it's a really good way to create embellishments for your layout. So if you are short on stash, or if you want something different than what you have in your stash currently, then look at your stamps to see what will work. And that's all a part of using what you have and using your stash. I think sometimes we forget to use our stamps on our layouts. We buy the stamps. I love stamps. I have a nice little collection of stamps. And sometimes I forget to use them, or at least I did in the past. And in more recent years, I've made sure to pull a stamp set anytime I'm using items from my stash and use them. So for this stamp set, it has a lot of reading themed icons. So I'm using some navy blue ink from Stampin' Up. This is an old stamp set, and our stamp pad. And I'm just stamping on some heavy white cardstock. I do apologize for the shaking. I have a table that is wobbly, and I've tried everything to make it not wobbly. So now I'm going to have to replace it for something that's a little bit sturdier. So I appreciate your patience while I get that sorted out. This is something that I've been dealing with since I moved into my house and set up my craft room. And I can't for the life of me figure out why this table is so wobbly. So in any event, that's what the shaking is all about. All right, back to the layout. So I stamped all of these elements. So I have one label that says title with the stars on it. I'm going to color that in using some markers here in just a second. Then I also punched out some circle stamps. One says read this, the other one says love this. I cut out a couple of labels. One says favorite. I'm going to stick that to the top, and the other one says must read. I'm going to layer that on top of the little globe at the bottom left. Again, a really great way to not only get some mileage out of your stamps, but to create your own embellishments using your stamps and getting really creative with that. Particularly if you don't have a large stash, stamps are a very economical way to create embellishments, and they look really good. So not only can you stamp them, but doing some heat embossing, that'd be great. Some foiling, that would be really fun too. So you can definitely get creative with that. All right, so next up, adding that must read tag there. And then at the top, I'm going to add the favorite and layer that on top of that freckled fawn white and yellow trimmed label. I'm just going to stick that right there. Just all those little elements, what gives a layout its finishing touches and makes it really stand out. Just going to tuck that right there. And that looks good. I love using labels. They're great anchoring pieces for smaller embellishments. Okay, so now I have this review label. I'm going to stick that at the bottom. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says currently reading. Of course, I could have written the title of the book, but there wasn't a ton of space on that label. So I grabbed another stamp from that Ellie Studio stamp set. Again, please mind the shaking there. Hopefully I can remedy that this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that directly on the label. Then I thought I would color in those stars. So I pulled out some of my Tombow markers and also an ink, not an ink, but a acrylic block. And what I'm doing is I'm blending these colors, and these markers, you can definitely do that. I wanted a color that was similar to the yellows that were already on the layout. And I'm going to go ahead and color in all of those little stars. Again, just adding some small touches to these stamped embellishments that I created. There we go. Looks really good. I'm using a blending pen as I blended 2 shades of yellow together. And there's what those pens look like. Those are the Tombow Mono brush pens, or Tombow brush pens rather. All right, so lastly, I'm going to add some enamel stars, and I believe these are from Freckle Fawn as well. I really miss their monthly kits. I love their embellishment kits. And now I'm going to write the journaling, and the journaling says, it appears that you cannot go anywhere without a book. Riding in the car or going out to eat, you bring a book to keep yourself occupied. Lately, you have been obsessed with the Dork Diary series. You have literally devoured these books. Maddie and I are so proud to pass on our love of books. And we are. So there's the completed layout, 8.5 by 11. Lots of really fun layering, using nothing but items from my stash. And it's so fun because you fall in love with all of those products that you've purchased. Use your stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you use your stuff. That's what we buy it for. This video was made possible by the Victoria Marie Scrap Boss patrons. To learn more about how you can support Victoria Marie Designs, make sure you check out the link below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. When you do, click that bell indicator. That way you'll know each and every time a new video is posted to this channel.